All right, welcome to this episode of 101 Part-Time Jobs, where I went to speak with Orlando Weeks at his exhibition around the record release of Loja, his brilliant new album, which he did all the artwork for that you see on the cover. He was making art in the daytime and playing by night. That's exactly what 101 Part-Time Jobs is about. So I hope you enjoy this chat with Orlando Weeks on 101 Part-Time Jobs at his exhibition space for Loja. 101. How much planning goes into something like this?
Way more than I thought was going to be required. At every stage, it has been more work or more questions or more paper or it's a sort of vanishing horizon of underestimation on my part. Yeah.
Is that part of the job? I mean, when you're making stuff, you're the boss. It starts and ends with you.
Yeah.
There's always going to be things you're like, oh, I didn't know we needed to do that.
That's more of the job. Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah, it's a lot of the job. Answering questions, making decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just funny hearing yourself called the boss, you know. Yeah. I'm the boss.
Call yourself the boss? You're the signee, you're the signature.
Yeah, exactly.
Walking into here, the thing that was kind of overwhelming, the overwhelming feeling with it was like, okay, it's your music, you're a songwriter, you're an artist, you're an author, and to have somewhere where you can bring that all into under one roof, that's special. I often think about when I really love a record, really love an artist, it's like you go into their world, you go into that space that you've both created as the listener and as the artist making it. And this is like an extension of that. It's like more, it's real. It's an actual physical thing you can be inside.
I think that was sort of the hope. I mean, part of this is born out of, I make a lot of visual work that doesn't see the light of day, or I make a lot of visual work that is specifically for a record, and then not that it only exists in the context of that record, but it's so specific. And I think being in Lisbon and having a bit more time has meant that I needn't be so specific, and as a result, I've made more work, and I'm in like a place that I've fallen for big time. So my family's really happy. So the kind of giddiness of that means that I'm energized and I have more ideas and more time to do it and a little space to do it in. So yeah, I think if I'd sort of had the idea sooner, and actually with A Quickening, which is 2 records ago, I made some prints that I was really, really happy with, and I think had lockdown not happened, we would have done something, probably not on this scale, but we would have found a way of giving them a bit more, what do you call it? Like a bit more of a shop window or something.
I feel like that's the thing when you're making something, when you're making a record or writing a book, the kind of less specific you can be, the kind of perhaps like the less pressure there is. And I think we all have that, is that when you're not, you can concentrate too hard on something. And so when you're enjoying it and you're letting it flow, is there some truth into like that's when you can make the best work, the most sort of pure work, when you're letting it flow through you?
I think sometimes I like having a manifesto, even if it's mine to break. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
like with
your rules.
Yeah, with A Quickening, for instance, that was, I wanted to try and talk about the time of waiting for my son to be born and the time directly after that, and what my experience was as witness to what my partner was going through, all those things, right? That was the aim. And then with Hop Up, the point, the task that I'd set was, I missed so much stuff from that experience. I need to make sure I fill in some of the blanks left by that record. And with this one, I didn't have to. I think there is less specific.
You got there.
I chickened out at the end.
Bottled it.
Yeah, but yeah, I didn't feel quite so hemmed in, I guess. And so it's a bit about being in a new place, and a bit about not being in a place that I'd lived in for all my life, and a bit about family, and a bit about arguing, and a bit about getting over it, you know.
Yeah. That's good stuff. That's real life. I think that's what we find in records. When there's a record, when there's a lyric and it's confused, or you can tell the writer is in this kind of moment of, okay, I don't know what's going to come out of this. We see ourselves in that. It might sound a bit earnest, but we're together in that. I think that's what pulls us to records.
Yeah. I think the balance for me is how close to earnest you get, but being totally sincere. So it's like there's this tipping point where you lost me, you know? Mm-hmm. So we were talking about Bill Callahan earlier, and I think he is like the best at getting as close to that line and never quite tiptoeing over it. So, yeah.
Do you write every day? Do you wake up and write? Do you wait for a time when you feel it, or do you put it into your schedule?
I don't write every day. When I'm in that mode, I do, but I haven't sat down and tried to write a song for a couple of months, I guess. It's been nice.
Yeah.
But I've been doing prints and drawing every day. Well,
actually, it's nice. It's when you're a bit overwhelmed by one, you can move to the other.
That's all. That I've found more and more to be the best tonic for me. Like that was eye-opener for when I was making Gritterman. The relief of, if I'm stuck on a lyric, I'll start writing some story. If I'm stuck on the story, I'll start writing some songs. If the song's not working, I'll do some lyrics. If none of that's working, I'll do some drawing. It's the getting stuckness is the worst. And so if you've got other things to do, you're less stuck. Mm-hmm. And if you're stuck at them all, then you know it's time to go and have a walk or something.
Go for a swim.
Yeah, go for a swim. Yeah.
How long did it take you to learn that about yourself?
Like far too long. I remember so when I was at art school, one of my tutors, I got to the end, and I'd been touring with Maccabees since the first year, and I'd been really trying to keep up with work, and I minded about it, and almost in like the last week, someone had said, so one of the tutors said, so you're in a band? And I was like, yeah, and I'd been making all of the work, the visual work for the band for, well, I had been doing it, and they said, well, why aren't you displaying that? And it hadn't even occurred to me that would count. So suddenly I was trying to shoehorn in all of this Maccabees stuff I'd been making. Yeah. But and I should have known from then, basically, but you get, as with everything, you just I get very tunnel vision, and I sort of forget that there could be room for both. And actually, I think people this is quite sort of sweeping, but I think people's attention span and people's only have so much room for what they think a thing is. You know, it's hard to convince people that you do more than one thing. Or not even convince them, just remind them or let them know, and for them to remember that. And I think I remember seeing, I bought a Tim Presley book, and it reminded me how much I just want to try and make work that can coexist with the music I'm making.
That's cool. It's great when you find a book or watch a film and it kind of reminds you of what you value most.
Yeah.
That's a cool feeling.
Very cool feeling. One of the nice things about art, it's kind of broader, but yeah. It's
kind of in the human condition to, if we're making something, we kind of don't let ourselves take it seriously. Or, like you're saying with the Maccabees and being at art school, you had the band and you had art school. And I wonder if that comes from being in like a rock band when you're a kid. It's like against the grain, it's subversive. It's not supposed to be in the regular lane of life. But that's actually just not true. That's just something that's kind of been either built into you or something.
For me, I think it was just more that like my friends that were a band were different to my friends that were an art school bunch. So, and never the twain did meet. So it just like, until I started getting gigs for us in Brighton, so it just didn't even, I mean, it's insane, but it just didn't cross my mind that they could be sort of one, you know, one thing.
I think one thing that we're seeing a lot more is artists growing, and it's not just about the 18-year-olds in a hot band. It's like we have people like Bill Callahan, or artists who are going on with their life, getting older and writing consistently brilliant records. I think now's quite an interesting time for that. I think there's more ability to grow, and that's what it makes me think, is that, I mean, do you know who you are? You're continually to learn who you are, right?
Yeah,
it's not like you get to 25 and you're like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
You could be 55 and learn something new about yourself.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm so glad you carried on talking then, because I thought you were going to just end with, do you know who you are?
Do you?
No.
I don't know who I am.
No, good. Well, I'm glad we've worked that out.
Leave it open and let someone else decide.
Yeah.
So are you learning things about yourself when you're writing, and because that's kind of the fuel, but it's also the outcome?
Yeah, I guess so. I would be nervous to let that be the way that I talk to myself about it, I guess. So if we bring it back to here, right, the thing that I have gained confidence in is that this is sort of my shtick, right? That I'm not a great live performer. I'm not even a very good musician.
Two lies?
No. But there are brilliant front people, right? I am not one of those. That's part of what makes them so unique, or so why I mind about what they do, for instance, right? And part of what I can do is I am industrious. I really mind about the visual aspects of things. I really like making stuff. I like trying to make sure that the two feel cohesive. And so this is an extension of that. This is me trying to take it to an nth degree in terms of presentation, and that being not just music and not just performance, but also exhibit, you know. These are all, as many facets as I can muster at the moment.
Now when we're listening to records, we're looking at the same Spotify or iTunes thing. You know, we're looking at our same laptops. You know, we don't want to labour the point, but it's different from buying a CD or buying a record, where you have the physical experience of it, and you've got the dog ear on the lyric page, or the bit where you've kind of cracked that little, you know, where you slide the insert into the CD and yours is a bit broken.
Yeah.
Like, that's my CD. I can tell because it's my CD.
Yeah.
Now everyone's screen, you know, we're all looking at the same screens. This is having an exhibit. That's something new. It's a new way to bring your art to people.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe you don't want to. It's kind of like hammering it on the nose too much and looking directly at it. But that's a way to be an artist today. Like, how do you be a special artist in 2024? This has got to be one of the ways.
Yeah, it's the only one I've thought of so far that isn't. Also, you know, I've been a touring musician, or in a band that tours, or on my own that tours for almost 20 years. So, not that it gets tired, but what's exciting about, like we said at the start, you know, I'm the boss now. If I want to, if I want to do something different, then I should make that happen.
Yeah.
And that is exciting, and it is challenging, and it's harder work than I had thought it was going to be, and it's longer hours than I thought it was going to be. But it's good. It's new. It's another thing that I will think I tried, and that's really important. How
do you sum up what makes a success of a project, or a record, or an exhibition, or a book? Is it just the doing it, which is you made it, that's the success, and you move on to the next thing? How do you kind of look at it?
That's right.
It's kind of a horrible question.
No.
We don't want to think of ourselves as successes or not successes.
No.
It's not life, but
but it's a good question because I don't know. I don't think it ever happens at the end of the thing. I don't think, like, there were moments when I was making the work for this where it's the same. I think it's the same with all things, or for me anyway. I will write a song in its like very like the beginnings of a song, and for a short period of time I will think it's the best thing I've ever done. Or I will start doing a drawing and I would think this is for a tiny amount of time I would think this is the best thing I've ever done. And for those moments is worth all of the other stuff, right? But then there was moments like when we put up the big friezes or like the big sort of story drawings in the long room, in the place where the gig is in the evening.
Rad. They look awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, and when they went up, success. Yeah, and then I haven't got enough poster tubes, and it's that, and so it's like little victories, and but I don't think I've ever made a record and got the master and thought success. Like it's not the point, and it's also it's the excitement of the next thing being the success is way more important than the thing that's just happened being the success. That's the carrot and the stick, and that's the
101. So you got what you're happening now, you got what's happening next year, and you got the thing that's happening the year after. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. Do you get overwhelmed by it? Does it get too much sometimes? Because it's a lot of, even an exhibition, it's one thing, right? Mm-hmm. But it has like a laundry list of jobs. I mean,
yeah,
you can't. I can imagine it's going to be hard to be in a good place to create when it feels on top of you.
Yeah.
How do you get away from that? How do you energize yourself? I mean, you mentioned earlier that family and friends and new spots. Mm.
Well, I would say that this bit isn't creative, really. Like this is industry. This is sort of, this is sort of manufacturing. Mm.
This is your Warhol.
I guess, but it's more just like I don't have to use the bit of the brain where I'm constantly questioning how bad or how good or how it just is. Mm-hmm. Like the reason I needed you guys to come early enough today is that I know how long the ink that I have takes to dry in this room, which is the only room I can use, for it then to be packageable so that I can sell prints this evening. You see what I mean? Like. So that's not the same as, is that lyric the awful? It's a different bit of brain, and it's a different bit of muscle. So
that's awesome. That's punk.
Do you think?
It's like Jello Biafra. It's like Dead Kennedys printing their own T-shirts and being like, okay, yes, it's a financial thing, but it's also a control thing, not a negative, but it's your art, and everyone knows that artists have a job figuring out how to control their art. Mm-hmm. It must feel really liberating. Mm.
Yeah, no, it is. Like I'm like I guess it's the same thing as when we were talking about, like, if I'm stuck on drawing, I do some music. If I'm stuck on music, I do some writing, whatever. Like, I did lots of writing and making and drawing for this, and now I'm knackered, but I'm just making prints. Like, it's all just function. It's not. These are excellent. Thank you.
And they're all on the record cover. They're all on the Loja record cover.
They're all on the cover. Yeah.
How did you piece them together? How did you decide what? Is it a gut feeling?
Yeah, that's
like a collage gut feeling.
I think so. Like you move them around, and wait till the composition feels unclunky. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And lino prints. I don't know how to do lino print. This was screen printed.
Yep.
By my partner, and I've kind of seen people screen print.
Yeah.
What is lino print? How does it work?
So lino print, I would say, is one less equipment requiring than screen printing, just because often you need, with screen printing, you need that, I don't know what they're called. But
Squeegee?
No, the squeegee is, I can do that bit, that's sort of analog enough for me. But you have to make the screens, and to do that you need to expose the screens, and to expose the screens you need that kind of weird X-ray, like...
And exactly the right amount of light and...
Yeah, so that's where you lose me with screen printing. But with lino, it's just a bit of linoleum. Linoleum. Like you get in the kitchen floor, and then you gouge the shape or the design out of it, and then it lives, like, it's pretty hard wearing.
Yeah.
And you press it, or burnish, I think they call it. And I've got this spoon that is good.
How's your RSI?
It's all right, actually, because I think I'm spreading the load, doing bad piano in the evenings, burnishing in the day. Yeah.
I wish that I had an art teacher that taught me that. Maybe they did and I wasn't listening. But art is such a important thing. It's vital to teach at school, because there are kids where maths doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Kids where English doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Art is a way that's just, it's the language. It's the same as math. It's the same as English. It's another way to communicate.
I think as well, it's like for me, it was just a break from all like even just like because I was not good at, I was okay at English, but I really struggled at maths, really struggled at the sciences. And even, it's hard work, like feigning interest, you know? So then you get to go and have an hour of art where it's all the bits of your brain that you've put to bed for a while get to have a bit of time.
Yeah.
So
and our brains are fucking powerful.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
It's silly. It's kind of silly to say. I think about it a lot, how there's memories back there, and there's things that we know how to do that we don't even let happen.
Yeah. It is I mean, how little we know about it. They say it's that we know more about the bottom of the sea, right? Like, yeah.
Having a kid yourself, has that, do you think about their upbringing and their sort of involvement in art, and I was going to say contribution, but I guess it is a contribution, isn't it? When you make art, it is a contribution to your surroundings. I mean, speaking about like schools and art, and you know, in Britain, I don't know, the schools that I went to, there wasn't a much emphasis or elevation put into our art and making songs, making art. Is that something that you think about for your own kid?
I sort of think, I mean, he's not even 6 yet, so everything is kind of, I sort of feel like it is all one thing at the moment, that one needn't, I'm not compartmentalizing his approach to drawing versus dance versus language versus whatever, like,
I mean, they're all as important as each other.
Yeah, so I guess I just haven't thought that far ahead. But yeah, I mean, for me, I remember, like, when I was at school, if you were arty, that was not a nice thing to be called. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't have, it wasn't what you were, like, it was like yeah.
You weren't, like, rewarded for it.
Yeah, I don't think any of my, like, even my friends, it wasn't, none of them, they didn't care about it at all, which is fine. But do
you think it's something as we get older? I think I've thought art is cooler as I've got a bit older.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, everyone, I mean, for me, you find your tribe. Like, I remember getting out of school and going to art school and thinking, I'm the least arty person here. Like, so that was a nice switch up.
You battled with? Was that kind of being around people who are making different stuff? I mean, that's kind of the beauty of art, is that everyone's on their own path, everyone's on their own trail. And so you can't qualify, get them against each other. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And there's no, I don't know, like, I guess it's just harder, like, occasionally you meet people that say that they don't like music, and I kind of like, yeah, okay, But it's maybe harder to not, I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time thinking what other people think.
That's a good way to live.
Well, I mean, that's also bullshit, but I spend a lot of time thinking what people think.
You lying to me?
Yeah. Well, no, I just thought I didn't think about that, but then I do, like, I mind, yeah. I guess what I meant was, I'm not that fussed if someone says they don't like music or they don't like art or they don't, I don't write that off or them off. But I definitely think about what people think about, yeah.
I think it's maybe like not very cool to talk about, but trends come and go. Like that's the definition, right? And it's so some years you might be cool, other years you might not be the coolest person in the room. Like we all go through that, everyone, no matter what you're doing. Do you think how do you kind of quantify that for yourself? Is it a case of being like, fuck it, I can't control it, it's out of your control?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose what I think about more is what I love that my job is making stuff. So everything is geared towards how I would really like to end the kind of, what would be cool for me is if I can keep that as if I get to, if I die having only done this, that's cool with me. And but yeah, like I think that in a way the trends thing is, as you get older, you see how once you see the first full loop of trend return, like when I was at school, the like sort of skater fashion and big chains and sort of fire imagery coming up trouser legs or on guitar straps and stuff, and cargo trousers on like pop bands and stuff. That's now.
It's back, baby.
It's back. So it just does that. It just does one loop, waits a little time, comes again, and so it's not yours, unless you are one of the few. What do they call them? Are they mavens? I don't know. Like the people that decide the next hot thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
That's one of your jobs, isn't it?
No, it's not my job at all. My job is to not. I guess is that my job? I don't think it's my job, but it's one of the things is to not be swayed by that. Like,
yeah,
it would be, if you're always chasing, then you're putting your energy in the wrong place probably.
For real, and that's like a serious point, especially now. Last few years, we're looking at when people go on holiday. We're not looking at their testing times. And so we can't help as humans to sort of like project that onto ourselves. Like, am I doing the best I can do in this life? Am I doing the best job I can? Am I the best person, the best friend I can be? It's a lot to kind of try and sum up and realize about yourself. I think that there's something in that if you could just do the best you can, and if you try, I think a lot about trying and about how important that is.
I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's especially in a job where there is less need for it than other jobs. So one of the things that stops me feeling like it's just one great long vanity project is thinking that the effort and the industry and the sincerity of it, like trying to maintain all of those things, makes it slightly less embarrassing. Yeah,
embarrassing. That's such an irony for me, is that people who are making this art that I wake up and it really makes my day, listening to the record this morning. I'm like, wow, and I was listening to it in the bath. I had it on Alexa on like volume 9. I was pissing off the neighbours now. I was waking them up at 7:30 this morning. And I thought, this is great. My day is already off to a great start.
Great.
And it's wild to think that the artists, the people making that, can sometimes feel something like embarrassment because it's raw and it's vulnerable.
It's not even something like it. It's pure as the driven snow embarrassment. Yeah.
How do you reconcile that?
Make more stuff. Yeah. And then, because everything's embarrassing if you look at it long enough, you know? Like, so you try and keep to your principles and know that it being embarrassing is just a bit of it. Like, and that comes and goes. Yeah.
That's some good advice.
I mean, it probably isn't, but it's how I think to keep doing.
That's what I think of when I got the beer fear, and I think, oh, did that joke that I said last night didn't land?
Yes.
Everything's a little bit embarrassing.
You're absolutely right.
And other people are thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
They're thinking about what they've said. They're not thinking about,
yeah.
they've forgotten what you said.
Yeah. But it's a real thing, that fear, you know? Mm-hmm. You have to sort of ride it out, get to its worst conclusion, live with that for a bit, and then it starts to ebb away.
Mm-hmm. And you've grown. That's growth.
Is that growth?
It's like a lobster.
Is it?
When it gets too big for its shell, it's painful when it gets too big for its shell.
And it dies.
And no, when it gets not yet. Skip to the end. And then it leaves its exoskeleton behind, and then it builds a new shell.
Does it?
Yeah.
I thought that was a hermit crab.
Might be. I might be totally fucking it up.
No. I thought lobsters just grew to whatever size ocean they're in. Like, they can sense the scale of their surroundings. So a lobster in a cage or in a tank will only grow, it will stop growing because it is aware that it hasn't the room to grow.
Does that mean if we leave you in here long enough?
I'll get quite big. Yeah.
101. Big question.
Yeah.
You ready for it? Mm-hmm. Who or what has given you the biggest push up the hill in your life?
Ooh. I don't know.
Not a person or a situation that you learnt from?
I mean, the reason I'm doing any of this stuff is just because it feels like the most natural use of my energy. I would be a terrible so many other things. It's the confusing bit is that I love it, and so if you love doing something, does that mean that it should you be doing something harder, or should you be, you know what I mean? There are loads of people, like my parents and my brothers and my partner and my, like everyone is contributing to my sort of general well-being. That means that I feel better about spending a lot of time thinking about the shape of someone's head, or am I going to write to that person and ask if I can really use that brass sample, or whatever it is, like, yeah.
You've got great fans.
Yeah.
And it's a good range of fans. I saw you at Heaven last year. Mm-hmm. Great show.
Thank you.
One of the things that really struck me about that night is the music is quiet, and it's tectonic or oceanic, and those kinds of, it requires not just patience, but actually it requires people to open themselves up to receive it, is the way that I think about it. And I thought it was awesome that there was 1,000 people in there in that position.
Yeah, pretty quiet. Yeah, no, I agree. It's been the same here, actually. The patience and the willingness to buy into the quietness of it is, and especially after Maccabees, where it was sort of not the opposite, but the point, like it had a different point. And I think lots of people have come from being Maccabees fans and moved over and have been prepared and flexible enough to entertain a different evening, a different type of experience, so a different gig, Like.
It's rewarding.
Yeah.
You're rewarded for that. I think that's something that I think we'll learn, right now we're in that sort of 30-second, TikTok thing. And I think we'll quickly realize that our patience and our ability to let things, to widen ourselves open, widen ourselves to receive bigger, slower, kind of meaningful, deep connection. I think that we'll see a bit more interest and importance placed on that in the next few years?
Yeah, good.
Because it's reading and it's life experience.
Well, podcasts, right? Like, I'm grateful for podcasts. It's a lot of time on your own making prints and stuff. You need good things to fill your ears, and
Nice. Orlando, thank you very much for having us here.
My pleasure.
And it is just ace to see you sat in front of
Thank you.
your lino prints that make up the record cover. The record is awesome.
Thank you.
I usually ask people, what their biggest fuck-ups at work have been. And I feel like I don't really want to ask that. Okay. What was the song on this record that you were like, okay, this is going to be on the record. This is a nucleus to the record.
I think the first time when I had the band that I put together, when they started playing playing the song called Please Hold, which was called Plant Rights, but and I could hear them, the groove that they found and just the lollop of what they were doing. That was a nice moment, and I still hear that in the song, and there are bits of that all over the record where it only works because they were so good.
Lollop's a great word. Good
word.
And I don't want to make you feel self-conscious, but that thing you did just then, that's how you dance.
That's how I dance.
That was great to see you do it just then.
Yeah. At one point I was thinking I could try and sell that as trying to own dad dancing. I've made records about becoming a dad, and maybe I was going to sort of spin some nonsense about I'm actually an amazing dancer, but I've honed this dad dance, but it's just the only one I can do.
It's not too late, to own that.
It's so too late. I've got less rhythmic fish to fry. Yeah.
So you've got a secret studio around here. You've been going to Canavans.
Got the leg warmers.
Did you ever go to Canavans?
No.
Do you avoid it?
Yeah. Oh well. I just the only reason I know here is because my friend who I do a lot of handwritten type for, he's a graphic designer. Like, he has his studio in the Bussey building.
Yeah. Nice. If there's one spot in London that makes you feel at home, where is it?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know about at home, but I always think the South Bank has like magic. Every time, like, no matter which period of the year, like which season, I think it's pretty special. Yeah. Yeah,
Christmas Day on South Bank. That is cool.
See you there.
You got the skaters, you got the stalls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
And because it sounds silly, but it's so concrete. There is something kind of paradoxical about that. That it's kind of culture, but in a kind of lump of concrete.
Yeah. I think also because you look over at those other buildings, all those big plane trees that line it, and yeah, you got the Barbican and stuff, like the kind of brutalism, all of that, and yeah, there's some benches there that are like, I know what that means. I know, I know who I've sat there with, like, yeah.
That's really nice. Those are the things that's part of you.
Yeah.
Those ideas, they make you who you are.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you very much, Orlando.
My pleasure.
101 part-time jobs. Or 101 part-time. Still trying to work it out.
That's fine. I'm still trying to figure out how I do my fours.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Like, do I do it that way? Like, which looks nicer? At the moment, I'm doing that.
Okay.
I've just started doing a longer pull on my top of my 5, and my 9 recently became a single, like, slight pull away, like that.
Yeah.
Handwriting is...
Bit of style.
I will not solve that before I die. Yeah.
Have you got a pretty excellent signature?
No, I've got a bad signature, but I've got a pretty banging 4. Yeah.
If you enjoyed this chat, make sure you subscribe to 101 Part-Time Jobs for more. We've done episodes with Idols, Yard Act, Self-Esteem, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, and so many more. We put out 2 episodes every week, and we'd love to have you there. Subscribe to 101 Part-Time Jobs on Spotify, Apple, and everywhere you get your podcasts.